Hi, I know I'm late. February is actually a lot shorter of a month than I thought it was. In this video, I'm going to talk about my favorite LGBTQ plus books that I've read. This just means that the book features characters who identify as some label under the LGBTQ plus umbrella. It does not necessarily mean it focuses on that. The first book is The City Beautiful by Aidan Polydoros. This is a historical fiction novel set in Chicago, 1893. It's about 17-year-old Romanian Jewish immigrant Alter Rosen, who works at a local Yiddish newspaper in order to pay for his mother and sisters to immigrate to America. However, when his roommate, Yakov, who he is also in love with, is found dead at the Chicago World's Fair, he starts to believe that Yakov is another in a string of murdered Jewish boys. When preparing Yakov for his traditional Jewish burial, Alter begins to experience visions. These visions will parallel Yakov's experiences, such as feeling pain that Yakov has felt, and sometimes even losing control of his body. He meets Raziel Ackerman and Frankie Portney, who also knew boys who were murdered or have gone missing, and they work to figure out what could have happened to Yakov and all of the other missing boys, because due to the high rates of anti-Semitism in Chicago at this time, there isn't much being done. I really enjoyed this book. I don't want to go into too much detail. I feel like I talk too much in detail about what happens in the books, and that kind of spoils it a bit. I really liked this. I read it in high school. I found it just like in the library. It's actually based on the real serial killer H.H. Holmes, who was active around this time, which I thought was neat. I haven't read a lot of historical fiction, especially not ones that are based on minority groups. I thought it was a really interesting take. It really focuses in on a specific group of people in a very specific set of circumstances, because it was probable that an older teenager might have to pay for his family's passage because they could only afford to send over one or two people. Because he went over with his father, and then his father dies, leading Alter to believe that he causes the people close to him to die, and that he's cursed because he came close to death as a baby, but survived, so he thinks he's cursed. It also goes a lot into Jewish theology, which I don't read a lot about personally, and especially discusses being gay and religious. A major topic of this book is him feeling attraction towards his male friends and struggling to decide if it goes against his religion, because he's in love with these people, but he doesn't want to violate biblical law. I loved this story. I highly recommend it to anybody, everybody. It was really good. The next book is The Darkness Outside Us by Elliot Schrieffer. This book takes place in the year 2472, and it is about two boys, Ambrose Cusk and Kodiak Celius, who are on a space mission to the moon Titan. There's a lot. It's hard to explain. The book opens on Ambrose's point of view, and he doesn't really know where he is or what's going on. And the spaceship, there's a voice in the spaceship that kind of gives him little tasks to do to keep the ship running. It's a lot. There's a lot of plot twists. It's like one after the other, and I don't want to ruin it. So Ambrose is on this ship, and he figures out that Kodiak is also on there. And the thing is that they're two nations, the Federation and Democracia. Basically the United States and Russia, but in the future. They're like sworn enemies. So he's kind of like, why is this guy here? I hate him. Basically, Earth has become just monolith United States and monolith Russia. And they're fighting each other all the time. So he's kind of like, why is my mortal enemy on this spaceship with me? They're trying to find his sister, who's gone missing on a space mission after going out to try and colonize Titan. It's written a little bit like a log, like a spaceship log. Like there's no chapters, it's just like page break, new day. Which I think could be upsetting to some people, honestly. It was a little bit surprising to me. Was not my favorite choice. But you know, I guess it's kind of obvious. They do fall in love at the end. But that's not really the point. Like, yes, star-crossed lovers, literally, but also, like, the nature of humanity and morality and, like, the value of human life and the value of one life versus many. It was devastating. I think the next one either recently came out or is about to come out. So I guess I have to read that. The next book is Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. This book is about Yadriel, who is a transgender Latino brujo. I'm so sorry if I pronounce things wrong. I'm trying, I promise. According to this book, not official like culture, the brujos are witches who have the ability to summon spirits and to release them from the physical realm, while brujas, who are the girl version, are witches who have healing powers. And Yadriel, who is transgender, that's a major part of the story, struggles with this because his family still sees him as a girl. Like, they see him as a boy, but not the same way they see cisgender boys. So they still expect him to develop healing powers, because they, in their heads, they're like, well, you're not really a boy. So to prove that he is a true brujo, he tries to summon the spirit of one of his cousins who's presumed dead. There's like a whole thing where like they can like feel when one of their own dies. So he's like, well, I'm gonna go summon my cousin's spirit, and then everybody will believe that I have these brujo powers. Except instead of summoning his cousin, he summons Julian Diaz, who used to go to Yadriel's school and does not remember how he died, and is not ready to move on until he finds out. So Yadriel has to now help Julian figure out how he died in order to help his spirit move on, because you don't want him just hanging out. This was a really fun book. I thought it was cool that his gender identity was such a focal point of the book, while also having a major focus on like culture and spirituality and just genuine like spooky ghosts. The second book I think just came out recently, or is going to come out this year. So I'll definitely be reading that one. I loved them. It was such a good time. I love this book. The next book is Nimona by N.D. Stevenson. This is a graphic novel about the shapeshifter Nimona, who aspires to be a villain, basically. She joins the disgraced knight Ballister Blackheart in his plans to destroy the Capital I Institute. Ballister has like reasons. Nimona just wants to blow stuff up. It's like slice of life with a side of plot a little bit. Ballister used to be a knight, but after fighting with Ambrosius Goldenloin, absolutely wild name, he lost an arm and was disgraced. Except they're also in love, which complicates things a little bit. So Ambrosius becomes like the champion of the Institute, and Ballister is now like a storybook villain. And they discover like a dark secret of the Institute, and it's kind of like they're like ick. The story it's fun and it's a good time, but it's also got like deeper meaning and stuff. Like there's the whole like shape-shifting aspect where Nimona doesn't really feel like herself. It's also heavily implied that she's gender fluid, but it's never like stated. However, with a power like shape-shifting, she has a lot of trauma from her childhood where she was considered a monster by her village and cast out. They believed that she was a changeling who was impersonating a child who had died. So she was experimented on by the institution. It's never actually confirmed if she was just a girl who was born like that, or if she was actually a changeling, but that's not really the point, is it? The ending is really bittersweet. Like, it made me sad a little bit. But I'm not gonna spoil that one. I loved this story. I remember when the movie came out, I read the book first, because I wanted to know the story. And then I was obsessed with the movie. It's such a quick read. Like, just go read it. It's not hard. It's such a good time. It really experiments with the concept of gender identity and identity just as a person in general, and your sense of self, and found family, and morality and ethics, and when is it okay to do a bad thing for a good reason. And also, it's a good time. It's fun. The next book is The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. And this boy is chunky, okay? So be patient. This one is a lot less lighthearted than the others that I've talked about. It is an epic fantasy in a world inspired by ancient India, and it is the first volume in the Burning Kingdoms trilogy. This book is mostly about two characters, Malini, who is the younger sister of the reigning emperor. She has two older brothers, Aditya, who gave up his claim to the throne to become essentially a monk, leaving the throne to Chandra, who is very traditional. He's essentially a religious fanatic and has taken to burning women alive for the gods. When Malini refuses to sacrifice herself to the gods, he gets mad and imprisons her in something called the Hirana, which is a temple of Ahiranya, which is it was an independent kingdom. It is now taken over by please hold, the Empire. They're like suppressing their language and their culture and their stories, and leading to a lot of instability and rebellion in the Empire. There is also a disease called the rot, which causes plants to sprout from your body and ultimately kill you. There's the other character is Priya, who was a temple child in the Harana before it was taken over. She's now a servant of General Vikram, who is the Parijati regent of Ahiranya. And when Priya saves Malini from an assassination attempt, she becomes Malini's personal maid. This book is mainly focused on the rebellion. It's about Ahiranya trying to take back its culture and its identity as an independent nation, and really, really struggling to get there because of all of the instability and the disease and the poverty. It's about Priya going back to her religion and rediscovering her power as a temple child, while also kind of fighting with it. And Malini's focus is mostly on the political aspect because her brother's the emperor, but he also wants her dead. Priya and Malini are the relationship of the story, but they're kind of the side plot. They're a little bit in love, but they have to focus on taking down the empire at the moment. They've got bigger problems right now. It is really long, and there's 3 of them. And it takes some emotional effort to get through, honestly. It was rough out here. But the end of it, I just absolutely tore through. It was so good. I am right now halfway through The Oleander Sword, the 2nd book. And it's a struggle. There's a lot of military right now. For most of it, there's a lot of military happening. We haven't even gotten to the true politics. But it's political. Anyway, it's a rough book. It's definitely not for everybody, but the story is fascinating. The culture and the world is so cool. I've only recently started seeing more fantasies inspired by India. I've seen some Asiatic fantasy inspired by China and Korea. China specifically, they have a really interesting military history also, the Poppy War. I've also started seeing some based in India. And this is a really good book. It's just long and complicated, but it's really good. The final book on my list is more lighthearted. It is Sweet and Bitter Magic by Adrian Tooley. This book is about Tamsin, who is a witch who has been cursed to never feel love, and about Ren, who is something called a source, which means that she is kind of made of magic, but she can't use it herself. Tamsin has to steal love from others as the only way that she can feel any kind of affection. And Ren, as a source, is required to train with the capital C Coven, which is the entity that exiled Tamsin when she was cursed. But Ren doesn't want to because her father is sick and she has to take care of him, so she's been hiding that she is a source. However, a magical plague comes and takes over the land, and Ren's father gets really sick from it. So she goes to Tamsin, who's the village witch, and promises that if Tamsin helps Ren find the Dark Witch who created the plague, then Ren will give Tamsin her love for her father, which is her strongest, most powerful feelings of love. It's written a bit as an enemies to lovers type situation, but it's more just they just don't like each other until they do. I really don't remember very much of it at this moment. I think I was like 15 when I read it, but it is really cute. It's a really good time. It's just like a basic, like, easy little fantasy witch story. I liked it. That is my list of my favorite LGBTQ stories that I've read so far. If there is a really good one that I did not include on this list, it is probably because I haven't read it yet. But feel free to comment it down below if you think that I should, or if you think I should not, or if just in general you're like, hey, have you read this one yet? Why haven't you talked about it? That way I can either talk about it or read it. Now that I'm like talking about books online, I'm realizing that I actually haven't read as many books as I thought I had. I just collected them. So I'm working on actually reading the books that I own instead of just looking at them. Thank you all so much for watching. I will hopefully get this video up soon so I can work on my March videos and read more, because I did not do as much reading in February as I had expected to. School is really catching up with me. It's getting rough out here, guys. I'm gonna go to bed. I'll see you in the next video.